There was a Jewish tax collector named Levi, and he was hated by almost everyone. Not because he was a Jew, but because he worked for their oppressors, the Romans. The taxes he collected were from his own people and given to the enemy. Everywhere those Jews moved, so too do those Roman soldiers with their swords and spears, reminding everyone who's in charge around here. Look, the Jews are the people of God. So what are they doing? Submitting to some pagan ruler who thinks that he's a god. But they had to. Those Romans punished. They were cruel. Serious offenders were killed, and some by the dreaded crucifixion. They'd nail their bodies up to crosses and impale them outside the city. Brutal warnings to any would-be rebel. Look, Levi needed a job. The money was good. Protection came in the form of 2 Roman soldiers, one either side of him. And there he sat every day in his tax collector's table, plenty of clients. Each of them brought their hard-earned cash, some seething with anger. Oh, he was not the problem, but he became a target for verbal abuse. Sinner, traitor, outcast, cheat. Oh, there was no protection from name-calling. Those soldiers didn't care any more about him than any other common Jew. They were paid to extract cash. Well, Levi ran out of friends. The only friends he had were other tax collectors and social rejects. They hurt badly. For once in that trade, there was no way out. Their reputation was all bad. And when you consider that Jews measure each other by how well they keep the commandments of God, then tax collectors were rated way down the scale along with other common sinners. Levi was trapped. Even if he wanted out, he was locked into a cage of everybody's hatred. Well, one day, he was sitting at his tax collector's table and he saw a crowd gathering. And as they came closer, he recognized some of his clients. It was Peter, John, Philip, all fishermen. They'd paid their tax along with abuse. Others had all vented their hate for the Romans, and so fear rose up in him. Would this be a mob? The start of a revolt, perhaps, and the soldiers snapped to attention there might be violence. Then he saw the reason for this crowd. It was Jesus from Nazareth. He was a popular miracle worker. Some hoped that he would free them all from the Romans. Well, where would that leave Levi? Alone. Religious leaders were also in the crowd. These upper-class gentlemen were his worst critics. They put themselves at the top of the social order, so no way they'll come near a tax collector, so he should be safe for now. And then Jesus stopped and he started walking straight towards Levi. Well, what's happening? He did what any tax collector would do. He checked his files under J. No, Jesus doesn't owe any taxes, so why is he approaching me? He's got many men with him, looking unhappy and murmuring bad attitudes about Levi and his employers. Well, he was used to facing these one at a time, but this is scary. Their views don't seem to be shared by their front man, Jesus. He's smiling and looking straight at Levi and approaching him. So Levi hangs onto his table. And then he remembers Jesus' reputation for overturning tables like his, coins and all. Everyone else is glaring at him and they've got their fists clenched. Would he be the first victim of their revolt? A signal from Jesus and he'd be a carcass for the vultures. They kept their distance like he was a bad smell. Jesus makes a move forward and he greets Levi with respect. Levi's confused. This is either a bad joke or this Jesus is committing social suicide. In no way anybody who's gathered as many fans as Jesus would waste them all on the likes of him. But he dares to think that Jesus is for real. He doesn't have a category for this treatment. Long buried emotions begin to well up from inside of him. Every other Jew either avoids him or comes under threat, but this Jesus, also a full-blooded Jew, under no coercion whatsoever, in full public scrutiny, comes right up to him and stands there with this big friendly smile on his face. Well, what does he want with me? What he said next just broke Levi right open, like a heavy bolt deep down inside his gut just burst open and out flooded a river of warm feelings. Jesus bends over him and he says to him, "Follow me." Well, his heart takes over. He stands straight up. He meets his gaze. Nothing else seems to matter. He's being accepted. He's being loved and respected by this man Jesus. Well, he steps past his table, away from the money, his livelihood, away from the guards, his protection, his security, and he does exactly what he is told. He follows in step. The crowd are still murmuring, but all he hears resounding in his heart are those two words, "Follow me," and that is exactly what he does. Where are we going, he dares to ask. To your place, Jesus replies. But you'll only find tax collectors and sinners there, he says. Don't care. Can't we leave it till tonight when everyone's gone home? No. What do you want to do at my place? Have a party? Who with? Your friends? Oh. Well, he arrives home and he steps inside with Jesus to the astonishment of his family. And he announces, "We're going to have a party, send the invitations out." Now, Levi's got a big house. Tax collecting pays well, but no way he can fit the big crowd that's gathered outside. Well, that wasn't going to be a problem, because no way anybody who thought there was somebody would step into a house owned by the likes of Levi. Well, word soon went out, and his house soon fills up with fellow tax collectors, other sinners, and social rejects. And right in the middle of them reclines Jesus, cracking jokes, taking a few drinks, laughing, eating, and generally hanging out with Levi's friends. Well, meanwhile, outside, an argument's broken out between some Pharisees and other religious leaders versus Jesus' disciples. They'd also left everything to follow Jesus, but being friends with tax collectors and traitors was not in their contract, or was it? "Why do you eat with tax collectors and sinners?" the Pharisees want to know. Well, the disciples are stuck for words. We don't. We do because Jesus does, and they look inside. No, we don't, because we only eat with our friends, and these fellows are not our friends. At least they didn't used to be. In fact, we hate them. The disciples look inside, and here's Jesus with his arm around Levi. And then another Pharisee, looking at Jesus, wants to know, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Well, the disciples haven't got a clue, but Jesus butts in. "It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." Well, that answers the Pharisees' question, but it also answers Levi's question about why he came. Sick. That's it. He is sick. He is sick with condemnation. He's sick with guilt. He's sick with hatred. He's sick with loneliness and rejection. He is wounded in pain, a reject in his own society. There they all are, glaring through his shutters with their judgments like he was some animal in a cage. But reclining between them and him is this Jesus. It's like he's absorbing all that hate into himself and radiating back out from himself love, a love that's deeper than the guilt and the pain, a love that heals his wounds deep down inside. Jesus is here as a doctor of his bleeding heart. Well, these are sacred moments, and they're not to be interrupted by another Pharisee. He's glaring his judgments from the doorway. Jesus speaks directly to him. "Go and learn what it means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice." Well, this is a quote from their own scriptures. Not able to bear the sight of mercy being shown to a sinner, they back off to their synagogue to do their cleansing rituals, because after all, this day they had come to the very doorstep of a sinner. They performed their sacrifices, but no mercy was found in their hearts. While late in the evening, outside, in the dark, the last of the crowd, still arguing, but inside, in the light, with Jesus, tears are flowing. Levi's friends have all decided to turn their lives around, to stop their cheating and their lying, stop their taking bribes, and ask forgiveness from their wives. Hearts are softening. The presence and words of Jesus are cleansing their guilt. Jesus speaks up. "I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance," he says. Jesus' disciples crept inside and sat quietly in the corner. They couldn't answer the Pharisees' questions. And late in the night, Jesus got up, he took Levi's hand and he led him to Peter and to Philip. "Peter, stand up and embrace your new brother. He has been made clean." Well, Peter stood up, tears filling his eyes. "Lord, I'm a sinner. I've hated Levi. I'm guilty. Please forgive me." And Peter held out his hands and he embraced Levi, and tears wash away deep prejudice and hatred. Once a reject, now a brother. And this is how Levi became a member of that small band of brothers, each one of them cleansed, released, healed and forgiven by their new master, Jesus.